Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bicharnane Nirvisesha Shinivadi Pashtatari Sitarne. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. And of course, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're reading today Canto 10, Sudam Visits Lord Krishna, Chapter 80, text 35 through 38 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, very beautiful section. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll read very short verses, relatively short purport, but jam-packed with all kinds of very important lessons there. We'll try to touch on a few of those. So text 35 and 36 are first, and then 37 and 38 are single, and 38 has a little bit longer purport, and again, very meaningful, so we'll start there. So I'll just read the Sanskrit. You can read along with me at the same time if you'd like. Apinasmayate Brahman Vritam Nivasatam Guru Darashchodhitanam Intanananyane Kvachit Pravistanam Maharanyam Aparto Sumahadvija Vatavasham Abhut Tivram Nisturas Navaha. O Brahmana, this is Lord Krishna speaking. O Brahmana, do you remember what happened to us while we were living with our spiritual master? Once our guru's wife sent us to fetch firewood, and after we entered the vast forest. O twice-born one, an unseasonable storm arose, with fierce wind and rain and harsh thunder. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that this storm arose during winter and was therefore unseasonal. Of course, those of us in this part of the world, a winter storm is not unseasonable, but there it was unseasonable. Next text. Suryascha gatasvavat tamasa chavrita dishaha nimnam kulam jala mayam na pragyayata kinchana. Then as the sun set, the forest was covered by darkness in every direction, and with all the flooding, we could not distinguish high land from low. And the last text we read today, text 38. Vayambrisham tatra mahanilambu Nihanyamana mohar ambu samprave Tisho vidantam ta parasparam bane Grihita hasta paribabrimanturaha. Constantly besieged by the powerful wind and rain, we lost our way amidst the flooding waters. We simply held each other's hands and in great distress wandered aimlessly about the forest. So I can't hear everybody, but let's do this together, this verse in English. We can just, I'll say, you can just say with me. Again, the same verse, 638. Constantly besieged by the powerful wind and rain, we lost our way amidst the flooding waters. We simply held each other's hands and in great distress wandered aimlessly about the forest. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami points out that the verb paribabrima may be understood to be the prefix pari with either the word bri or brahm. In the case of brahm, it indicates that Krishna and Sudam wandered all about. And in the case of Bree, which means, quote, to carry, end quote, it indicates that as the two young boys wandered about, they continued to carry the firewood they had secured for their spiritual master. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Gyana Tamyam Dasha Janan Anjana Shalakaya Chaksha Manitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapanantikam. So, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I've been having some trouble with my internet connection, so hopefully it stays strong and I don't get dropped. This is a really beautiful story with Sudama Brahman. It's 2 chapters of the Bhagavatam. And here the Lord himself is personally speaking. Sudama has come to visit Krishna, and he's placed him on the bedstead, it's described, and he's offering puja to him, and Rukmini's fanning him. All of these wonderful things are happening. Sudama's really kind of carried away by this greeting. He's so amazed that Krishna's greeted him in such a loving way. So here the Lord is speaking, and he's asking Sudama, do you remember the times that we had together and the difficulties you underwent? I'm going to turn off this background. I had to move because the room I normally sit, the connection was not so good. But out here, it's not such an interesting background, but let's just go with that. I'm in my kitchen, so hopefully that, is that easier to see rather than the background of mine? Sometimes it's a little weird when you move in and out with those artificial backgrounds. So those Mayapur, it's not artificial, it's transcendental. Does that make a difference? Any comments on that?
We can see you well.
Okay, this one's good. Okay, good. So again, this is their personal story, their service to their guru that they underwent together, the hardships that they endured. So there's a lot of ways to understand the Lord's pastimes, including this one. So I'll just touch on a few points. The first being, which to remind us, Krishna is so personal. I recently toured an observatory in Texas over Thanksgiving, and they had pictures that they'd taken around, the galaxies in the universe with these phenomenally large structures, stars and planets and galaxies. And it's kind of a little bewildering to think Krishna is so big. This whole universe is just insignificant compared to his opulences. He's so big and so vast, and yet he's so personal. This is our Vaishnava philosophy reveals this. He's so personal. And I was remembering as I was thinking about some thoughts to share in class, when I very first time I personally went to the Hare Krishna temple, I'd met devotees previously, but I went to a temple in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I was a student. And I remember the devotees told me, they said, Krishna is the person that we're all looking for. And it just really struck me because I very much had the sense I'm looking for something or someone, but I don't know what. And I keep being misled. And it's actually a fact of life in this world. People don't like to talk about it much, but every single living being is feeling some aching in their heart. They're feeling some hole in the heart. They're feeling that something is lacking, and they're searching. They're trying to fill that gap. So much anxiety and loneliness. I was listening to a story on NPR radio the other day and speaking with a devotee friend who's a professor. He was describing how these days among students, there's so much anxiety and there's so much loneliness and so much psychological problems. They actually train the professors how to deal with the students in a special way to help them with all the psychological and emotional stress that they're feeling. There's special training now they didn't have when he first became a professor to help them understand how to deal with the anxiety that the students are feeling. And this is because we're looking for something, but people don't know where to look. They don't know what they're looking for. And therefore, people are being misled in this world. I live in Washington, D.C. right now, change of administration. So people looking for power. It's all that they're all talking about, can you get this position in the administration or that position in the administration? How much power are you going to have? And how much power does the executive have over the legislative branch? And are the senators going to fulfill it's all about power. Because people are thinking if I get power, I'll be happy. Or people are thinking if I get beauty, I'll be happy. I had to travel recently. I went to California for the American Academy of Religion, and you walk through all of these big shops with beauty aids. It's kind of thinking as a soul in a man's body, it's so alluring. You have to get, I'm gonna go to the airplane. I'm gonna go look at all these big ass, but it's more alluring even for women, souls in women's bodies that buy this expensive product and put this special stuff in your face and you look even more beautiful because they're wanting to be beautiful. The soul's looking for beauty and wants to feel beautiful. People, so many different things. Intoxication, we know, is everywhere. Sex. Some people want a nice home. They want a place in the country. Recently, we all have experienced. They're thinking Black Friday. Wow, this is really going to satisfy me. I'm going to stand in line outside the store, or I'm going to go online. I'm going to get the special product at a special price. It's going to make me happy. It's going to satisfy me. And they're so excited about it. But I just looked up just before class a couple interesting statistics. 19%, that's 1 in 5, Christmas gifts are thrown away. Can remember that number. 1 in 5, 19% Christmas gifts are thrown away. Because I didn't want it, I didn't need it, somebody gave it to me and I don't want it. That equates to 9.1. I think this is a figure just for America, maybe not the world. $9.1 billion worth of gifts are thrown away. So everybody's all excited. There's a Christmas tree or whatever they do. And I got a big box and a beautiful ribbon. And I tear it open and wow, this is going to make me happy. Throw it away. 1 out of 5. That's huge. And this corresponds, they suggest things that are returned and thrown away. It's a little unclear, these numbers. There's some different angles of vision. 5 billion pounds of waste thrown away every year, Christmas time. 5 billion pounds of waste. These are things people think they want. These are the things people work hard for. These are the things people put on their credit card and stress out for months trying to pay for. These aren't just things that fell from the sky and then they realize it's not good. They're working hard for these things and then they get them or they give them. And what does it lead to? Frustration, unhappiness, etc. So therefore, our philosophy says, and so many other traditions teach, almost every spiritual tradition, maybe every spiritual tradition teaches, that material things can make us happy. And what's worse, in a sense, they lead to exploitation. Being absorbed in material things leads to exploitation. I saw this recently. I think I mentioned I was in Texas for a couple of days. So we may think, these are my friends. Why? Because they help me get what I want. These are my enemies because they're obstacles to what I want. And we see sometimes they talk about, this time of year, there are so much conversation about how do you deal with when you go home for the holidays and your family's so miserable? How do you deal with the fact, you go home for the holidays and it just breaks into political arguments? It's like, 'tis the season to be jolly, and then you go home and it's miserable. It's such an illusory world that we live in. So these people, I'm thinking, these are my friends, these are my family, but they oftentimes lead to distress. What to speak of those people? These are my friends and family because they help me be successful in what I'm thinking I need at this particular stage of life. And these other people, they're my enemies. They're my competitors. There's a limited amount of power. There's a limited amount of money. There's a limited amount of fame. At least that sense is there. We know Krishna is unlimited, but materialistically, we're thinking there's limited amounts. So whoever helps me achieve what I want is my friend. Whoever's competing to get the same thing becomes my enemy. I was recently, just over Thanksgiving, was in Texas, was walking around this beautiful courthouse, little square, just getting outside, getting some fresh air. Talked with one of the local shopkeepers and said, this is such a beautiful courthouse. And she was explaining, she said, actually, there's a history that's not so pleasant. I said, what's that? She said, well, just a few yards from now is the railroad tracks, literally railroad tracks. On the other side of the tracks is where most of the Hispanic people lived. This side of the tracks is where the Anglo people lived in that area in Texas, not many years ago, a few decades ago. She explained Hispanic people were not allowed to walk the 200 yards to the courthouse to get their marriage license, to register any kind of sale of property, whatever kind of technical things you do in a small town in the courthouse. They had to drive their cars literally 20 miles south where Hispanic people were allowed to go. And they were described. It wasn't encoded. There's even historical things you can read as you walk around town. It wasn't even in the law that there was discrimination, but it was subtle discrimination because people are thinking, I'm better than you. You can't go here. You can only go there. So therefore, it's advised. This is just a little example. We all see examples every single day you walk down the street and you see different examples of how materialistic things and lifestyles and relationships, they mislead us, they waste our energy, they cheat us ultimately. Therefore, it's advised, all the great spiritual teachers, all our acharyas, they say we should be done with this world. We should become done with this world. It's all promising so many things, but they end up to not. And therefore, I was reading last night in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, it's throughout Prabhupada's purports and the teachings of our acharyas. We should just hear about Krishna as best we can, as much as we can, as often as we can. Just hear about Krishna, because by doing so, it purifies us. Prabhupada is describing in this purport, 7th chapter, gradually become free from passion and ignorance. So we become free from these desires for these things that we know aren't good for us. And gradually we awaken mode of goodness and ultimately Krishna consciousness. And we awaken, we become aware of our natural connection to Krishna. Our philosophy is so beautiful. We all have a natural, original connection with Krishna, and we've forgotten it. And then we're absorbed in all these things that distract us from that relationship. But by hearing about Krishna, it naturally awakens. So today we're hearing about Krishna and about the Lord's past relationship, his pastimes with his very dear devotee Sudama. Many, many things we can learn from here, pull from here. I thought of 3 specifically important ones. The ones that came to me, maybe not the most important ones, but ones that came to me to think about. The first one is that Krishna is so kind, he doesn't forget us. Just like we can learn, we're learning how Krishna interacts with Sudama, but we should never ever think, well, that's just Sudama. These are stories or histories given in the Shastra of how Krishna dealt with or deals with his devotees to reaffirm for us, to help us know and then understand and reaffirm and take deeply into our hearts to realize actually this is how the Lord is, this is how he deals with his devotees. So this first point, he never forgets us or forgets our service. So this is years later. Sudama Brahman, he's gone away, he's married, he's living, of course, he's very, very poor. Krishna's now manifest as Leela, as in Dwarka. He's got so many palaces, so many queens. But when he sees Sudama, oh, this isn't Sudama asking Krishna, do you remember? This is Krishna saying, Sudama, do you remember? I remember. Do you remember the times we spent together? Do you remember how that one time we got caught in the storm? Do you remember how we were serving our guru? Do you remember how we wandered around aimlessly? So this is giving us insight. Krishna doesn't forget the service that we render to him. He doesn't forget our relationship with him. Prabhupada comments many places. He gives the example that the son or the daughter, they may forget their relationship with their father or with their parent. They may forget, but the parent or the father never forgets. So he gives that analogy. We may forget our relationship with Krishna. We may be distracted for some time, for a few days, a few years, a few lifetimes, a few kalpas in this world, but Krishna never forgets. So that's one point. We should remember how Krishna is so kind. He knows us. He has a relationship with us. He never forgets our service to him. And the second one, I thought it was really interesting. The Lord says, constantly besieged by powerful wind and rain, we lost our way amidst the flooding waters. We simply held each other's hands and in great distress wandered aimlessly about the forest. And the whole time Sudama's in the forest gathering firewood for his guru in this horrible storm, in the darkness, in a very distressed condition of life. Krishna says here directly, I was holding your hand. I was with you the whole time. I think this is really important. A lot of traditions talk about when we go through life's difficulties, how God is with us. Here's a story directly explaining this in way of an analogy. It's a history. It's with Sudama. We're meant to bring this and understand this in our own lives. Every one of us passes through storms. And we shouldn't think, well, you become a devotee, no more storms. No, we're still going to go through storms. There's going to be some dark periods. There's going to be some problematic times. But as we become more and more Krishna conscious, we're aware of our connection with Krishna. We're aware that Krishna is with us, and that gives us strength, that gives us confidence, that gives us a place to take shelter through our faith in Krishna. We're going to have physical issues. We will have mental issues, psychological issues. We're going to have emotional issues, different problems we're going to go through life. There's going to be financial problems at certain times, family problems at certain times, job problems at certain times, relationship problems at certain times. It's just the nature of this world. But here we can look back and we can learn from this story. Krishna was with Sudama through the powerful wind, through the rain, through the flooding waters, in the darkness, despite the great distress. Even he says, wandering around aimlessly. Sometimes we may feel we're wandering around aimlessly. We're not really sure where we're supposed to go. But just like here, even in the midst of this distress, and later in life, this is when they're young, later in life, Sudama also had so many distresses. He was so poor. Of course, these transcendentals described, at least externally, poor, very thin, described as 3 verses before. His body was so, maybe it's coming up still. His body was so thin, you could see the veins. All the palace residents, they were shocked. He was dirty. His clothes were dirty. He was so poverty-stricken. He was so thin, you could see his veins. They were surprised how it is Krishna has such an intimate relationship with this person who externally is such a distressed condition of life. So even later in life, he had great distress, but the Lord understood his plight. The Lord was with him. And we should try to keep this in mind as we go through our lives. Some happiness, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, right? Matara sparshas tukunteya sitas na sukha dukkha. Some sukha, some dukkha in this life. You can't avoid it. It's there. If we understand it, we can cope with it. If we think it's going to be something different, if we think if we buy the new Christmas present, if we buy the Black Friday special, this will actually make me happy, guaranteed up and down internally, our conscience will be affected by that. But if we understand the ups and downs of this world, we become transcendental. The more and more we become Christian conscious, we're transcendental. And I think most of us, maybe all of us, we look back in our lives. Oftentimes it's true, the things that were the most stressful in our lives are the things that led us to pray most sincerely. They're the things that led us to really call out to Krishna, or they're the things that led us to really look for Krishna. I know I can say that in my life, I haven't been through some of the difficulties that others experience, but the pain that I've experienced, when I look back, that's what really motivated me to cry out and try to understand the Lord. And without that pain, I'd still be stuck in the boring chase after material happiness of this world. So third point, first one being Krishna doesn't forget us, and the second one being that he walks with us. He's with us. He's holding the hands of Sudama when they're in the forest together. So Krishna's with us. Third point is both of them, Krishna and Sudama Brahmana, they show the need for us to do the best we can to be fixed in our service to our guru. And gurus is described 2 verses ago, very interesting text, 33, I believe, 32, about the person that gives us birth is our first spiritual master. The one who initiates us is also our spiritual master. But the person who bestows transcendental knowledge upon the members of the spiritual orders of society is ultimately one spiritual master. So when it says we should serve guru, sometimes we think, narrowly, my guru comes physically, walks in the door of the Bhakti Center, wherever I am. Now I get fired up. Okay, I got to render some service. Quick, grab a broom so Guru Maharaj can see me doing service. And then as soon as he leaves, or she, a few she's, as soon as he or she leaves, I got other stuff to do. Guru, can you help me, serve up a shot? Nah, I don't have time. Guru, can you help me do the dishes? Nah, I don't have time. That means we have not understood what it means to serve Guru. So here, Krishna and Sudama, they're showing us by the example, they need to serve the Guru, they need to serve the mission of the Guru, they need to serve the devotees of the Lord. And to be able to make this decision right now, our senses and our minds are demanding we should accept things that are favorable for my senses, or accept things that are favorable. My mind thinks I need this and that. Yes, I have to do so. We need to change that process. So we accept things. The sun's coming up here. You can see the sun in the background. We need to change things in a way of thinking so that we accept and reject things based on what's good for Krishna, what's good for our service to our Guru, as described here. And they give a wonderful example of that. They're lost in the forest. It's a storm. There's winds. There's rain. It's so dark they're walking around aimlessly, but they're still holding on to the firewood. It's described in the purport, because they're not going to give up that service to their Guru no matter what. So I think it's a very, very important lesson for us. Even when we are facing storms, even when we're facing the dark, even when we don't get credit, sometimes we get blamed for things we never did. Sometimes we get blamed for things we did, and we hope people wouldn't find out. Sometimes we get blamed for things we realize we shouldn't have done it. Sometimes we get blamed for things we realize, oh, you're right. So these things come and go. The problems, again, in life, I mentioned, the mind, the body, so many things. But when those things are difficult, when they come, then we should remember this pastime of the Lord and Sudama Brahma and know that they're giving this example. We should be fixed in our service and just plan on it. I remember years ago, a sannyasi giving a class and saying, when it's Ekadasi, if you know ahead of time it's Ekadasi, somebody says, hey, Prabhu, would you like some pizza today? No, I can't. It's Ekadasi. Because you understand psychologically, you're prepared for it. It's no big deal. But if you don't realize it's Ekadasi, you sit down at breakfast, maybe you're someplace with people that don't know, have some nice prasad and pizza, that whatever, they didn't understand what day it is. And you go and someone says, oh, it's Ekadasi. They say, oh, darn. That's a tougher decision to make. So we should know ahead of time the nature of this world. There are going to be material moments and days of happiness and material, as they say in other traditions, use this word more, temptations. There's going to be temptations, things that look really, really good and attractive, but we know, hey, it's not good for me. I need to say no. I'm not going to go down that path. So even sometimes things may appear aimless. We're not clear where we should go, what we should do, how we're going to get there. We should maintain our focus on a relationship with our Guru and the mission given to us by our Gurus, by Srila Prabhupada. And as Prabhupada describes, even when you're in the ocean, if the waves are tossing, you don't jump off the boat. That's the worst thing you can do. So when the waves are tossing and turning us in this world, stay focused on our service, stay focused on Krishna, remembering his intimate relationship with each and every one of us. And even sometimes we may fall off the boat of spiritual life, of Krishna consciousness, of our commitment to bhakti. Even that's okay. Just climb back on the boat, dry yourself off, and sail on. That's the whole process by Krishna's mercy. So a few thoughts on this beautiful Leela, beautiful pastime of the Lord, beautiful relationship with Sudama. And as I know is your practice, we'll stop there. If there's some points of discussion or some questions that anyone might like to post. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you and to remember Lord Krishna and his beautiful relationship with Sudama Brahmana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank
I
you.
can't hear anyone. Do you have a moment of silence now, or what's our tradition here?
No, we're here. We're here. We're just digesting what you said. So wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu.
I noticed one of the devotees in the background was cooking breakfast. So yeah, it's good to know that he's digesting. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us what we can digest. Thank you for being so considerate. Temple Room has their hand up.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you said it all. We can only reflect that that very important point, that our relationship with our spiritual master is the guiding star. We're going across the ocean in a boat, the waves go this way, the wind goes that way. But if we know where we're going and we know that fixed point of our focus, what is my service? the Prabhupada Dash, the place given by the spiritual master for service, the prescribed duty. Even Arjuna was confused about, well, maybe I should serve you by going to the fort. No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. When he said to Krishna, all right, I get it. What do you want me to do? And then Krishna told him. So when we have that relationship with the spiritual master, we have a service, then that clears away all the different distractions, obstacles, other options, and we can keep going in the right direction. And just by trying to please the spiritual master, anyone can please Guru. It's interesting that our criteria is not external, but he sees the heart. He sees what that we want to please him. I know it's
Yeah,
getting
thank you very much. And just if I can add to that, I mean, I'm initiated by Srila Prabhupada. I'm Prabhupada's disciple. I had one conversation with Prabhupada, which was out, he gave me my name. I promised to follow the 4 regular principles, chant 60 rounds. That was it. No letters, no, Prabhupada never said, Anuttama, go here, go there, go there. So sometimes devotees may think, well, I need a direct instruction from my, the physical presence of my Guru Maharaj. But the Guru, Krishna's representative, there's so many representatives of Krishna. We have temple authorities, we have Siksha Gurus, we have Diksha Gurus. So many devotees are helping us understand how to serve Krishna. So sometimes we kind of, again, get boxed in to thinking, this one person, of course, the Diksha Guru has an important position. Sometimes in the scripture describes the Siksha Guru as more important position. This verse 33 kind of explains the importance of that. But the point is when we get spiritual instructions to apply it and give our hearts. Again, I'll just mention this because some of the stuff I have to deal with, temple presence that leave Krishna consciousness for some time or
Is it just me or Anuttama Prabhu is frozen? Frozen. Okay. Okay, let's pray for those temple presidents who leave Krishna consciousness and come back, hopefully. Let's pray for them. Okay.
very, very often the spiritual master will say, figure out how you can help. But also very often he'll say, people would approach Prabhupada and he would say, don't you have GPC? Who is your temple president? So it's not just that moving into a building, we're moving into a relationship with a particular person who's connecting us to the Sampradaya. We're the servant of the servant of the servant. And there's many people asking you what to do, but who are you doing it for? Right? We can be splayed out all over the place. So, surrender and desiring to have a person there, Krishna will send someone worthy of our trust and obedience. Or sometimes we want spiritual life without obedience. We want religion without God, without Guru, without Guru's representative. And then kind of aimlessly doing whatever we feel like in the guise of surrender.
Thank you. Anuttama Prabhu is back. Anuttama Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thank you. You got cut off right when you said something about temple presidents.
Yeah, sorry, I got dropped. It's technology, huh? Yeah, I mean, sometimes, we have temple presidents that have problems and go away for Krishna consciousness for some time, or sannyasis or GBC members, or Prabhupada disciples, initiating gurus. It happens. It's the nature of the world. We're in a battle with Maya. Sometimes soldiers are going to be hurt. Prabhupada sometimes would say at least once, don't be surprised who leaves Krishna consciousness. Be surprised who stays, because it's a little difficult. Of course, whatever service we render, that's never forgotten. We're going to pick up, if not this lifetime, next lifetime. So it's just, we shouldn't be surprised if people have difficulty. And we shouldn't think our spiritual life depends on one person. If they go away, then I'm lost. No, we have Krishna, we have our founder Charya, we have our Diksha Guru, we have Siksha Gurus, we have the Shastra, we have the deities, we have the devotees, so many ways that Krishna gives us shelter. So that was what I was saying, and I apologize for being dropped.
Thank you, Anuttama Prabhu. One time there was a situation in the temple I was serving at where the there was a need for correction. And the person in question said that, I'm not going to follow. You have to talk to my guru, and then I'll follow. And his guru is obviously sannyasi, and it wasn't a very significant matter, maybe even worthy of guru's involvement. But the person took that stance where I'm not flinching. You have to talk to my guru. There's a big controversy about that. So how do we apply that principle of serving our guru when our guru is not immediately involved in our dealings with the local devotees? Is that a valid position when we say, my guru never told me to mop the floor, my guru never told me to cooperate with you in particular, or you are deviating and my guru is not? Is that a manipulation, or how do we remain sincere when situations like that
Well,
arise?
it kind of makes me think, who's the servant and who's the master? I mean, if you have a guru, it means you were a member of our movement for at least 6 or 12 months. It means you've been chanting Hare Krishna. It means you're hopefully studying the Shastra. The Shastra says you're the servant. It doesn't say you're the master. It's like Prabhupada says sometimes, people will demand, I'll believe in God when he appears before me. When he appears, you show yourself to me and then I'll believe in you. So like, I'll serve when you tell me to serve. When you tell me, don't serve on Tuesday, you have to serve on Wednesday, not at 11 o'clock, you have to serve at 10 o'clock. This is all really manifestation of a lack of surrender. Of course, we know it, checks and balances. Somebody gives me a ridiculous instruction, jump out of the window, or, so, okay, but putting those, 1 out of 1,000 experiences aside, the whole principle of Krishna consciousness, we're learning to be servants. So we should think, I'm the servant of everyone. We shouldn't even think, okay, I only will serve my guru. If he gives instruction, then I'll follow. Or even, I'll follow if the temple president gives instruction, or if someone with a thread gives instruction, or worse yet, a man gives instruction. I'm not going to serve any ladies or something like that. Or I'll only serve, Prabhupada's disciples give instruction. Or even I think I'm only going to serve the devotees. And then I walk out of the door and I'm unkind to the man on the street. I'm rude to the bus driver. It's we're supposed to be servants of everybody. And so how can a person who would think like that and respond like that is kind of missed the point in my understanding. We're meant to be servants, and we should look for the opportunity to serve. And it's interesting. I saw an article just the other day that I thought was very interesting. I shared it with a whole bunch of people about some study that people who are altruistic, who try to serve others, they're more happy. Even materialistic, mundane people understand this. They give an example. They did some tests. They gave a bunch of people $20. And they said, you can do whatever you like with this $20. You can spend it on yourself, or if you want, you may want to give some of it away. Then they went back. The people that gave away some of that money, they were more happy. They came back and, did their tests or whatever later. So even in an ordinary situation like that, we want to serve. That's our eternal constitutional position. We want to give love. We want to get to the point where it's completely selfless, when we can totally, wholly give ourselves to Krishna. And of course, that means totally, wholly serving others because they're parts and parcel of Krishna. That's actually what satisfies us. What doesn't satisfy is all this calculation. Well, I'll serve you because you're pretty. I won't serve you because you're not pretty. I'll be a friend of yours because you're a big man, like you say, like a big man on campus, but I don't care about you because you're not a very important person in this company or in this environment. That's just materialistic understanding. We should train ourselves to think every living being is a servant of Krishna. I want to serve everyone. And especially within the spiritual organization, that we develop that mood, we try to serve others. And if there's a spiritual authority, temple president or, department head or whatever, even sometimes we all have experience. Doesn't mean those people are pure devotees. Doesn't mean they're like perfectly realized. They're always kind. They're always gentle. They have their ups and downs too. They have their bad days. But part of my demonstration to Krishna that I want to be a servant is, I tolerate a few inconveniences that come because I want to show him. And I want to show him I'm not a fair weather friend. I'm not just going to serve you when they glorify me or they let me sit up front or I get all the maha or everybody thinks I'm wonderful. I'm going to serve you even in a difficult situation. So even I don't like the instruction I get, If it's for the benefit of the community and it's going to ultimately, it's, if it's a totally anti-Krishna conscious, okay, that's different. But if there's someone who's organized the festival, they asked me to go wash pots, even though I wanted to be in the question and answer booth, hey, it's for Krishna. Let me do it. And that way we develop a very loving and supportive community. So that's my thoughts on that. Maybe there's time for one more question. We end at 8 o'clock promptly. Is that right, Prabhu? Or Prabhu's question in the temple room?
Hare Krishna, Anuttama Prabhu.
Nice to see you again, Prabhu.
Nice to see you as well. Thank you for giving class. One reflection and question was on how you mentioned Krishna and Sudama were kind of wandering aimlessly, but they held on to the firewood. So it seems similarly like I remember that description of Srila Prabhupada when he first stepped off of the Jaladuta, and he said that he didn't know whether to turn left or turn right.
Yeah.
And so it seems similarly that Srila Prabhupada was in that position of Sudama, that he was just wandering with the
Beautiful.
firewood of his spiritual master's instruction and with Krishna in his heart. So it just seemed like a very
Beautiful reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of
So
course,
like-
he knew where he was going in terms of serving his guru's mission, but he didn't know the particular situation. What was the best way to turn in that context? That's a beautiful example. Thank you. That's a wonderful example.
And then my question is, how do we follow in the footsteps of carrying the firewood of our teachers, plural, instructions for us in our life, like how they did so
Yeah.
such determination?
I think there's two main instructions. One is become Krishna conscious. The other is share Krishna consciousness. Everything else really is kind of a detail. Some of us, we cook, some of us worship the deity, some of us, make money and give donations. Some of us, manage. Some of us lead kirtan, some of us give class, some of us are brahmacharis, some of us grahastas, some of us sannyasis. But we all have this responsibility, whatever the particulars are, to serve Krishna and to try to awaken our love for Krishna. So those are the most important things. I remember that story. Prabhupada met with some book distributors in Atlanta, and it was just a book distribution sangha. So they're asking him, what pleases you the most, Prabhupada? Kind of hoping Prabhupada was going to say, you do. You Prabhus do. You're the most important service. And his response was, what pleases me the most is when you love Krishna. So that's something that we should really try to focus on above all else, is awakening, purifying our hearts and awakening our love for Krishna. Did I answer your question, Prabhu? You had some other particular.
That was wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Almost darshan time. Anuttama Prabhu, would you like to make a concluding remark?
Yeah, just that this is so inspiring, and that we should, again, I'll just summarize those 3 points so that they're important. Krishna is personal. He's there for us. He never forgets our service. Whatever little bit we do, he's aware, he notices, he appreciates that. He's walking with us, just like with Sudama. Krishna was with him in the storm. He's always walking with us. And he's shown us the example we should be fixed in our service no matter what. Material world is going to throw everything they can or she can against us. It's gonna come. But if we remember that Krishna doesn't forget whatever we do for him, that Krishna is always with us, and then we should maintain focused on our service to our Guru and our mission and our founder Acharya and to Krishna, then we'll be successful. Those 3 things I think are important lessons from these verses.
Thank you, Anuttama Prabhu. Perfect. Wonderful class. Thanks everyone for participating. Darshan time, turn on your cameras if you can. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Nice to be with all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to hear and chant about Krishna. We're so fortunate, just like Sudama, he was wondering throughout this whole thing, I'm so fortunate. I don't know why I'm so fortunate. Why am I so fortunate? We should feel the same way. We're so fortunate. Just take advantage as best we can. So fortunate.
Shri Radha Bhavira Gaura Chanchana Sil Bhagavan Ki, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Jai Shishirada Murlidhar. Okay. Jeffrey Eckler Prabhu, why are you so fortunate? Tell me.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I don't know that I'm so fortunate, but it feels as though I am when I'm in the association of you and the other devotees in the morning. So I think that's all I've really got going for me at the moment.
I feel the same way, Jeffrey Prabhu, when I'm in your association. Nice.
Very cool.
Cool. All right. Okay. So yeah, material world is gonna come at us, but Srila Prabhupada is right there holding us by the hand. And so is Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our guru and the devotees. So let's all throw ourselves in the devotional service and become blissful. There's nothing to fear, nothing to lose. You're gonna lose it anyway, so why not preemptively engage in Krishna's service? It's going to be all right. Happy Wednesday. We're all gonna die on the battlefield. Not today, not today. Sometime, yeah, sometime on the battlefield, serving Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, we love you. We need you. We need you, Isaiah Prabhu. Where are you? Where's our finisher?
Yes, I'm right here, and I'm not going to go to church.
Do it, Isaiah. Again. Again, Isaiah. Again. It's muting you.
His tooth.
His tooth. You lost the tooth? Oh my goodness. You look so, you can spit through that hole, right? Try it.
Not on me, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. The yagi is over. Hare Krishna. Isaiah, try. Thank you. Spit through that little hole. All right. Practice it. Jeffrey Eckler can teach you. Yeah. You have any holes in your teeth, Jeffrey Prabhu? Okay. My wife says I should wrap it up before it goes off the tracks. Hare Krishna. Hare